So in 90 minutes of knockout football, Austria attempted, they attempted exactly 5 shots.
Right. Not a single one was on target.
Literally 0. Yeah. Meanwhile, Spain's defensive midfielder, Rodri, he completed 109 passes just in Austria's final third.
It is a staggering statistical gap,
It really is. Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're breaking down how Spain just completely suffocated Austria in this 3-0 victory at Los Angeles Stadium, and they did it without their goalkeeper having to make a single save.
Yeah, we are talking about absolute total control of a World Cup round of 32 match here. And well, when you look at those numbers, it completely reframes how we think about dominance in modern football.
Exactly. And, to figure out how Spain evolved into this, terrifying tactical machine, we've been poring over the post-match fallout. We're not just looking at the highlight reels today.
Oh, definitely not.
Yeah, we've pulled together referee analysis from the BBC, tactical breakdowns from Goal.com, global match reports from Fox Sports and Al Jazeera, and, player ratings from just all across the board.
Well, I got to say, the overarching narrative from all those sources is that the real secret to this Spanish squad isn't the teenage superstar dominating all the pre-tournament headlines.
Right.
It's the unsung components.
Yeah.
They're executing this very specific, almost surgical tactical design.
Which is wild because we really have to remember this is the exact same team that ground out a genuinely uninspiring, just dull 0-0 draw against Cape Verde in the group stage.
Yeah, that was a tough watch.
It was. So our mission today is to figure out the how and the why behind that transformation. Have you ever watched a team look entirely beatable one week only to look completely invincible the next? Because that's Spain right now.
It really is.
Right.
But to understand that, we actually have to start with a moment where Spain didn't score.
Oh, right.
Or rather, a moment where they did score, but it was completely wiped off the board. Because how a team handles sudden adversity, it tells you everything about their internal machinery.
Yeah, we were talking about the disallowed goal just past the 30-minute mark.
Right.
It's still 0-0. The tension in Los Angeles Stadium is really building up. Lamine Yamal swings in a corner. Marc Cucurella meets it and just fires it home.
Incredible finish.
Oh, brilliant. And the Spanish bench just erupts. But the referee, Glenn Nyberg, he immediately blows the whistle and he awards Austria a free kick.
Yeah, Nyberg calls a foul on Spain's center back, Pau Cubarsí, for this aerial challenge on the Austrian goalkeeper, Alexander Schlager.
And I was watching the replays of this from, multiple angles, and the reaction from the punditry world was just explosive. The BBC studio was absolutely scathing about it.
Oh, they were furious.
Yeah, former England striker Dion Dublin didn't hold back at all. He said, and I quote, "I think it is absolutely ridiculous. I think that is a perfectly legal goal." He essentially argued that Schlager just needed to be, stronger in his own box.
Right, and presenter Kelly Cates completely backed him up on that.
She did. But I think the most visceral reaction came from former England goalkeeper Joe Hart.
Oh, I love this quote.
Yeah, he stated, "Premier League goalkeepers will be throwing their food and drink at the TV."
Which is just such a brilliant, vivid image, right?
It is. You can just picture a bunch of goalies sitting on their couches, launching popcorn at the screen in pure frustration.
Exactly. And the fans on social media were just as furious. I saw one viral post calling it the anti-Arsenal rule.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, basically implying that certain teams rely on crowding the keeper, and this referee was actively policing that specific tactic. Another fan just flat out said Spain was robbed.
And honestly, you can totally understand the outrage because the margins in knockout football are so incredibly thin.
They are. But, if we look at the refereeing standards across this specific tournament, we really have to acknowledge the other side of the argument, too.
Right, which brings in former Premier League assistant referee Darren Cann.
Right.
He offered a much more, sobering take on the whole controversy.
He did. Cann completely agreed that, in the English Premier League, that challenge by Cubarsí goes unpunished, and the goal absolutely stands.
Yeah.
But he pointed out that Nyberg's call was actually perfectly consistent with the refereeing we've seen throughout this entire World Cup. He specifically compared it to a really similar foul given against Germany's Jonathan Tah earlier in the tournament.
Okay, let's unpack this. So it's essentially a harsh technicality based on the really rigorous standards of this specific competition.
Exactly.
But here's the thing. It's like getting a brilliant idea shot down in a meeting on a silly technicality, right? Most teams, when they get a brilliant set-piece routine completely wiped out like that, they lose their heads.
Oh, totally. They argue with the referee, they get frustrated, they lose their defensive shape.
Yeah, and suddenly the opponent capitalizes on that lack of focus. Most teams would pout and lose focus, but Spain...
Well, what's fascinating here is exactly how Spain reacted. Because that traditional script, the whole psychology of a disallowed goal being devastating,
Right.
Spain didn't even blink. Just minutes later, in the 36th minute, they string together this undeniably flawless passing move.
It was so clean.
Just beautiful. Rodri feeds Pedri in the midfield. Pedri drives forward, completely bypassing the Austrian press, and he finds Cucurella out wide.
Yeah.
Then Cucurella calmly pulls it back into the box, and Mikel OYARZABAL just sweeps it home. It was clean, simple, and completely unarguable.
It was a massive statement. They essentially said, fine, take the ugly set-piece goal away. We will just build a better one.
Exactly. The sleeping giant woke up. They didn't let the frustration consume them at all. They channeled it into clinical execution.
Spain's response was totally flawless, but what makes it truly terrifying is who actually executed it. Because we're all watching the teenage prodigy, Lamine Yamal, doing these crazy stepovers and drawing all the cameras, right?
Right, of course.
But this elite system seems specifically designed to feed a 29-year-old veteran.
You're talking about Mikel OYARZABAL.
The ultimate unsung assassin. He scores that opener in the 36th minute, and then he bags another one in the 89th minute to make it 3-0. I mean, he has played his entire club career at Real Sociedad. We're talking over 400 appearances, over 130 goals.
Yeah, he's a legend there.
There was this incredible quote in the Fox Sports Max report that just perfectly sums him up. They wrote, "American casuals could walk past him at a Whole Foods without a second glance."
It's brilliantly accurate, to be honest. He does not have that global superstar aura of a player from, like, Real Madrid or Barcelona.
Not at all.
He doesn't demand the spotlight.
Yeah.
But if you look at his actual production for the national team, it is staggering. He now has 16 goals in his last 16 starts for Spain.
He is quietly building a golden boot case. And he's doing it purely by being in the right place at the exact right time. Like, Yamal is out on the wing drawing 3 defenders, doing all the flashy work.
Yeah, taking all the heat.
Exactly, and OYARZABAL is just arriving in the box totally unnoticed and just side-footing the ball into the net.
And that dynamic is not an accident, It is entirely by design. It's the core mechanism of Spain's manager, Luis de la Fuente.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting, because there's a tactical shift happening here that feels totally counterintuitive to me. We are seeing Marc Cucurella, the left back, get a 9 out of 10 rating from Give Me Sport, and he registers 2 assists. And then on the other side, right back Pedro Porro scores his first international goal with a header from an Alex Benina cross. But wait, if everyone in the stadium knows Lamine Yamal is the star attraction, why don't opponents plan for the fullbacks? Are fullbacks secretly becoming the primary playmakers in modern football? Because if I'm Austria and I see those fullbacks playing like wingers, I'm just launching the ball into the massive empty holes they left behind. Why didn't that work?
That is the most important question to ask about the Spanish side. To understand why it didn't work for Austria, we have to look at how De La Fuente has completely inverted the modern tactical meta.
Wait, what do you mean by inverted the meta?
Well, so over the last few years, teams like Manchester City or Arsenal, they've popularized the idea of inverting their fullbacks.
Right, like moving them into the midfield.
Exactly. They take a defender and move them into the central midfield to help control possession. De La Fuente is doing the literal exact opposite. He is keeping his fullbacks, Cucurella and Porro, incredibly wide and pushing them extremely high up the pitch.
Okay, so if the fullbacks are out wide and high, who is occupying the midfield spaces?
The actual wingers,
Ah.
or the wide midfielders. De La Fuente takes players like Alex Benina and has them drift inside from the wide areas. By tucking inside, Benina acts like an extra central midfielder, and that creates this massive numerical overload in the middle of the pitch.
I see. So it's like a decoy flare. Yamal and the fullbacks stay wide to pull the heat-seeking missiles like the Austrian defenders away from the center.
Right.
And that leaves a clear flight path for the overlapping runs.
Precisely. Let's look at the mechanics of Pedro Porro's goal, for example. Austria is terrified of Lamine Yamal on the wing. They have to double team him or he will just destroy them one-on-one.
Yeah, obviously.
At the same time, Alex Benina has drifted inside, which pulls another Austrian defender centrally to deal with that midfield overload we talked about.
Leaving the far post completely undefended.
Exactly. Because Austria is busy putting out fires caused by Yama and Baena, Pedro Porro is left completely unmarked. So he makes this late surging run to the back post. I mean, he is a right back, but he's arriving in the opponent's 6-yard box, like a traditional center forward, to head the ball in. Opponents spend all week planning for Yamal. They do not plan for the right back to be the one delivering the final shot.
That makes total sense offensively. It's a brilliant way to manufacture space. But, I have to go back to the defensive liability of this.
Okay.
Even with the decoy flares and the midfield overloads, if Cucurella and Porro are spending the entire 90 minutes in Austria's penalty box, there is still physical grass left empty in Spain's half. Why couldn't Austria just clear the ball into that space and run onto it?
Because they physically couldn't get the ball to launch it in the first place. And that brings us back to that unbelievable statistic we started with regarding Rodri.
Ah, the heat map.
Yes, the heat map. We are so used to seeing defensive pivots like Rodri inflate their passing stats with very safe horizontal passes across their own back line.
Right, getting it from one center back and giving it to the other.
Exactly. It bumps their completion percentage, but it doesn't really threaten the opponent. What is entirely abnormal about Rodri's performance in Los Angeles is the geography of his passes.
Yeah, let me read this again because it's nuts. He attempted 350 passes in this match. He completed 328 of them.
Incredible.
But the absolute killer stat is that 109 of those successful passes were in the final third alone.
Yeah, and to put that into perspective, completing 109 passes in the attacking third means Rodri essentially set up a permanent camp on the edge of Austria's penalty area.
Wow.
He wasn't playing as a defensive midfielder. He was operating as a one-man retaining wall.
Okay, explain the mechanics of that retaining wall. Like, how does that actually stop the counterattack?
Well, when a team like Austria is pushed that deep into their own box, their only outlet is to desperately clear the ball away.
Just hoof it up the pitch.
Right. But because Rodri is positioned so high, perfectly anticipating the angles, every time an Austrian defender heads the ball away or tries a long clearance, Rodri is already standing exactly where the ball lands. He intercepts it, calms the play down, and instantly starts a brand new Spanish attack.
So Cucurella and Porro never have to sprint back to defend those empty spaces I was worried about because the ball literally never gets past Rodri in the first place.
Exactly. The ball never travels far enough for Austria to even attempt a counterattack. It is pure suffocation by possession. Spain had 65% of the ball. They took 23 shots. 10 of them were on target.
And on the flip side, Austria managed just those 5 shots, with 0 testing the keeper, which totally explains Spain's historic defensive record at this tournament so far.
Yeah, it's wild.
This 3-0 win secured their 4th straight clean sheet. They didn't concede a single goal in the group stage, which, incredibly, is the first time in their entire national history they've managed to do that at a World Cup.
Their goalkeeper, Unai Simon, was practically a ghost in this match.
Right. There's a fantastic line in one of the match reports joking that Unai Simon should have been charged for a ticket to get into the stadium.
I saw that.
He was just a spectator with the best view in the house. And clearly it was a good show to watch because the cameras even caught 3-time Ballon d'Or winner Alexia Putellas up in the VIP stands taking in this tactical masterclass.
Yeah, but this raises an important question, right?
Yeah.
While it's a masterclass for the spectators and the VIPs, we really need to consider the toll this takes on the team on the receiving end.
It has to be a nightmare. I mean, we have to remember the context for Austria here. This was their first knockout game in a World Cup since 1954.
Such a long time.
Right. And Ralf Rangnick's side had put together a fantastic tournament just to get to this stage. They are not a bad team.
Far from it. And they showed immense heart.
They really did. They had moments where you thought maybe they might break through. Marcel Sabitzer was whipping in some incredibly dangerous deliveries from the left flank. Sasa Kalajic had a towering header that just barely missed the post.
Yeah, they could have made it 2-1.
Exactly, and that completely changes the complexion of the game. And we can't forget David Alaba's heroic goal line clearance in the 85th minute to stop Yamal from scoring.
They fought desperately.
Yeah.
But there is a compounding physical and psychological toll to playing against this specific version of Spain.
Oh, so?
Tactically, when you are constantly chasing the ball side to side, your legs get heavy. The lactic acid builds up way faster when you aren't dictating the tempo.
Oh, so what does this all mean? It's death by 1,000 passes, essentially. But it's more than just tired legs, isn't it?
Oh, it's much more. When you are constantly chasing shadows, executing your defensive game plan perfectly for 3 whole minutes, only for Rodri to just easily recover the clearance and force you to do it all over again, your spirit breaks.
Wow.
Bowing out to a superior team is noble, right? It happens in sports. But Spain's possession doesn't just beat your tactics. It actively dismantles your team's unity.
And we actually saw that breakdown happen in real time on the pitch. Late in the game, the broadcast cameras caught David Alaba and Florian Grillitsch visibly shouting at each other, just wildly gesturing in frustration.
That is the hidden impact of the Spanish style. When you see veteran teammates turning on each other on the biggest stage, it tells you that the sheer frustration of being made to feel entirely helpless has just boiled over.
Yeah, it was tough to watch.
The retaining wall didn't just stop their counterattacks, it broke their collective will.
It's not just losing a football match. It's like an existential crisis for 90 minutes. You do all the defensive running, you stick to the plan, and you still end up losing 3-0 while the opponent's right back scores a header.
It is the ultimate testament to a team trusting their system completely.
Which brings us to the core of what we've unpacked today. We started this deep dive looking at a Spanish squad that, quite frankly, looked thoroughly uninspired against Cape Verde just a couple of weeks ago. Now, they're marching into the round of 16 as a terrifying, complete machine. And I think there is an incredibly valuable lesson here for you listening to this.
Oh, definitely. How do you mean?
Well, in almost any field, whether you are playing a competitive sport, running a startup, or managing a complex project, we are naturally drawn to the flashy superstar, the person doing the stepovers, drawing all the attention.
Sure.
But true, suffocating dominance rarely comes from just that headline act. It comes when the unsung components step up. It's the veteran like OYARZABAL quietly arriving at the back post. It's the reliable midfielder like Rodri operating as a flawless retaining wall.
Right.
It's the fullbacks exploiting the ignored spaces while the competition is entirely distracted by the shiny object.
The strength of the foundational system is what actually allows those individuals to shine without fear of failure.
Exactly. When the underlying structure is that solid, the flashy players can take risks, and the quiet workers reap the rewards. But looking ahead, this tournament is far from over. Spain is going to face either Portugal or Croatia in the next round. And looking at those potential matchups leaves us with a massive final thought to mull over.
It really is the ultimate stress test for De La Fuente's system.
Because we've established that this entire fullback cheat code, having Cucurella and Porro essentially playing as wide forwards, it relies 100% on Rodri controlling the ball, anticipating clearances, and acting as that impenetrable wall in the midfield.
He is the absolute linchpin. If he falls, the whole structure collapses.
So what happens when Spain faces a world-class team that refuses to just sit deep and chase shadows? If a top-tier opponent with elite midfield talent decides to aggressively press Rodri, disrupt his passing rhythm, and actually steal possession in that central zone, what happens next?
That's the big question.
Will those highly advanced Spanish fullbacks suddenly transform from Spain's greatest defensive weapon into a fatal, gaping defensive flaw? If you manage to bypass the retaining wall, does the entire Spanish machine just short-circuit? It is the million-dollar tactical question, and it's exactly what you should be watching for as this World Cup continues.